You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode 89. Today, we're talking about parenting like a traveler with Patricia Monahan. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. Here, it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have, and when you are thriving, when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clarke-FIELDS Mindfulness Mama Mentor. I coach overstressed moms on how to cultivate self-awareness in their daily lives to take family and life to a new level of awakening. I've been practicing yoga and mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of the Mindful Parenting course, and I'm the mom of two girls, ages 7 and 10. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad you're here, dear listener. I'm excited for this podcast. We are talking to a good friend of mine, and you're going to hear all about parenting like a traveler. Before we dive in, I want to thank Jessica for the 5-star review on iTunes. She says, "Thanks to Hunter's podcast, I've discovered that I'm not alone in my parenting struggles. Thank you for the inspiration to grow and try new ways to be the best version of me that I can be for my kids." Oh my gosh, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much, Jessica. I really, really appreciate it. Leaving an iTunes review is super easy, and it's a great way to support the podcast as the algorithm shows it to more people with the more reviews and that kind of thing. So we want more mamas to understand that there's a better way to do things and to spread the word. So please do leave a review. It's super easy. You just can, if you're listening on your phone, you can click on the podcast app, go down to the little search bar, search for the Mindful Mama podcasts, and then when you see it, you click on it, and then you can click on ratings and reviews. And right there's a place to, leave a rating and review. So that's a really easy way to support the podcast and share it. And I hope you'll do that. And another great way to share the podcast is to just simply tell people about it. That's the best way, actually. Word of mouth is absolutely the best. And coming up, going on in my world, we have been starting mindful parenting. It's exciting. So if you want to get on the waiting list for the spring, you can over at mindfulparentingcourse.com. And in November, we will be 2017. If you're listening to this in real time, we will be starting some group coaching programs with the Mindful Mama transformation groups. So you can learn more about that and learn more about the podcast and all the things we do over at mindfulmamapodcast.com. And now on to this episode. I'm so excited today to talk to Patricia Monahan, and Patty is how I call her. She's a friend of mine. She's the founder of Our Whole Village, a travel company that connects families with culturally immersive experiences that give back. Very cool. Thank you so much for coming on the Mindful Mama podcast, Patty.
Thank you for having me. And actually, everybody calls me Patty, so you're good.
Okay, good. I was like, what do I do? That's great. That's great. And I love the work you do, and we've known each other for a while now and have a common interest in conscious parenting. But one thing, the thing that spurred me to say, man, I have to get Patty on the podcast was your post about parenting like a traveler. So,
right.
So, you do a lot of traveling. Maybe we should give you a little background to parenting like a traveler. Can you tell us about, why you bring kids, right, and families to places all around the world, like the Amazonian rainforest to all kinds of places. Yeah. So how did you end up starting to do this?
Right. Let's see. Let's backtrack a little bit. The reason I am so passionate about it, I think it's basically, and I think we've talked about this a little bit too, when we first met, it's because it has everything to do with motherhood for me. So that's what got me started. I worked as a lawyer for over 10 years. And then once I had my kids, it was basically like a wake-up call. And I was like, what am I doing? I want to be the best, I can be for these little people. And And I was like, what? And at the time I was just questioning all my decisions. Like, why am I a lawyer? Right? What am I doing? What I'm doing, and I kind of like this obviously became like so much bigger than it was intended to. And that's how it all started. And I was like, what are my passions? Family and travel. And I really wanted to expose my kids to different cultures and raise them to be curious and kind and open-minded. So that's what got me started. So what I do is basically I organize small group departures for families who are looking for these culturally immersive experiences, but they also want a give back or a community service component. I don't always call it like a community service because I like to work with kids from a very young age. And it's not like we're going to go build a school, right, at age 3 or 4. But there will be a day out of the trip where you can, give back a little bit, just have more contact with the local community that we're visiting.
That's so cool. I mean, that's exactly, I have to, I've been dying to do a trip with you because I so want to do that. And I'm also a person that loves to travel, but I can so relate to that. Like motherhood just makes you, it's such a change. Like your relationships with your body changes, your relationship with your time changes, your relationship with your partner changes, your relationship with your parents change, your relationship with your work, with everything. Like it's just such a huge upheaval.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
it does make you, it makes many of us like really start to question and say, oh, wow, what is really, really important?
Right. Yeah. Like you said, I think I've heard you say it before, like it really transforms us. Right. And that's, and the way we see the world. So yes, it is really powerful. I don't know. I think motherhood is powerful no matter what. But yeah, sometimes it just makes us question and go deeper. And
I think it's so funny. I mean, it's interesting because like some you have such a really interesting response to motherhood. You're right. You're like, I want to travel and I want to, and then you've created all this work and this company around this, and so many. It's almost like the polar opposite of many people's response, which is like, I'm going to hole up in my little, I'm going to make this little cozy nest and not go anywhere.
That's very true. Not many people understand it. And like, what? Really? Are you taking your 2-year-old to the Amazon? Like, what? Is it safe? I'm like, yes. They have kids in the Amazon,
That's so
There are
great.
cafes everywhere, Yes, but it is. Yes. And they did start very young, I will say that.
Well, you must have, no, there must be a real strong travel bug in your life and and your early experience. Was it something that was encouraged by your own family?
Yes. I mean, we did travel a lot growing up. I've been very fortunate. My parents took us on numerous trips. They started a little later. And, I think my first international trip was when I was 7 or 8. But we did go all over. I've been to over 50, I think maybe 60 countries by now. And most of those were like growing up with my parents. So yeah, I've been very lucky. And that absolutely changed my, worldview. And basically that's what I wanted. I wanted my kids to have the same. And I also wanted like to take it a step further because when I traveled with my parents, we were more like tourists, so we were visiting the different countries. But I've always been very intrigued by the local customs and different languages. And especially as a kid, I remember being like so curious and intrigued by the local kids, right? I like, who are these kids? I wish I could meet them, and kind of like I've always been fascinated by that. So when I had my kids, I figured, oh, wouldn't it be cool to actually have a more, immersive experience and actually get those kids playing together and, kind of like, so they grow with that, I don't know, that appreciation for the beauty of the world out there, and not just the places, but the people as well.
Yeah, because that's the best part about traveling. I was telling Patty, I'm slightly jet lagged because I went on my own trip
Right.
to Zurich, Switzerland for some work and some play, and that's absolutely the best part is the people, is just meeting the people, and it's almost more important these days because all our technology is taking us away in some ways from face-to-face interaction, right? Like, and there are things that I really benefit from and use, like sometimes like my grocery delivery service and whatever, but like, you know, we have less and less interaction in the name of streamlining,
Yeah,
and so it's almost more important now, I think.
absolutely. And those cannot be replaced, by gadgets and, iPads and all that. I mean, they're very useful in our everyday life, but we're missing a ton if we don't have those face-to-face times.
Yeah, yeah. So now that you have some perspective of being a mom
Hmm.
yourself and all that stuff,
Yeah.
do you think when you were raised sort of by your parents, do you have some perspective on what your own upbringing gave you, sort of
Yeah.
what seeds it watered in you as far as your own parenting, just beyond travel?
The impact of the travel on my parenting or of
No, or
how my parents raised me.
yeah. How your parents raised you?
Yeah, it's interesting. But I guess, yeah, definitely you can see. I think when we first become a parent, you have it very clear. At least I did. I was like, when I was pregnant, I was like, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, yeah. We're full of ideas at that point.
And you're like, I definitely will not, scream at my kid. Right?
Yeah, that's a big one for all of us, I think.
There are things that you kind of like know or think, that you're not going to do. But I think once a child is born and so is, a mom, and
Hmm.
then your perspective shifts a little bit. And I have so much more appreciation for what my parents did and how they raised me. And even though I do not agree with some of it, I understand where they're coming from.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
So, in that sense, yes, I feel like I have a lot more appreciation for what they've done, and I kind of try to, work with the good stuff. And then maybe they were not very aware of conscious parenting at the time, and positive discipline and things like that. They were more strict.
Hmm.
But, so yeah, but and it's a different time too, different generation. So
Yeah, yeah.
kind of, I like to think that we're evolving, and we're learning and as individuals and as a society too. So hopefully we'll get there, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. They had to be fairly forward thinking to be taking their their kids all around the world, and they must be, I mean, that's in itself pretty unusual.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And that's huge. And that's obviously has a huge impact on who I am today. So
So what do you see as the benefits, like, that sort of mindset, of that perspective of seeing the world? What do you see as the benefits for that in a kind of a larger life
right. Yeah.
perspective?
I mean, I can speak for myself, and also like I can see like with the work that I do, and I think not just me, but everybody that gets to travel as a child, we get, very curious, obviously, but also very flexible,
Mm.
very resilient as well. So I feel, yeah, that traveling, especially at a young age, if you start young, you're way more resilient than, most people. And just, I mean, I was able to learn different languages from, a young age. And I don't think I would have had the interest had I not been exposed to those languages. So, yeah, but I think and also like, basically being open-minded, travel does really broaden your horizons and makes you question like what you have, what sometimes you take for granted when you're home. So all of those things, and I think that's essentially why I do what I do, right? I want our kids to be more kind, more curious, more compassionate, more resilient, more flexible, And I want to help other families do that too, right? Because I really do think that the world would be a better place.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what is one of the coolest trips you've brought your own kids on?
Let's see. I think the one that is very special to me, especially because it's in Brazil and I'm from Brazil, is the Amazon River cruise. And my kids were 3 and 5 at the time when they went. And I don't know. It's just like it's one of those things. Like once you experience that, it is like a life-changing experience, and it's just so cool to be there with your kids and experience that, and you know, see their reactions, and see how they interact. You know, with the people in our group, but also with the people in the local communities. And we got the opportunity to help with the turtle conservation project there. So they learned, about how the cycle works, and they still remember. And it's so funny. The funniest thing is like 2 years after that, right? So Julia, my youngest, was 5, and she once turned to me and she was like, "Mom, remember when we helped those turtles in China?" And I was like, "What?" So I was like, "No, what? I know what's going." And then Sofia, my oldest, is like, "She meant the Amazon." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So they might not get the details right. They might just like, maybe she thought she'd been in China. She's never been to China, but she remembered. She remembered the feeling, and she went on to talk about how brave she felt, and how like she loves doing it, and how she wants to do it again, and she wants to go back, and she remembers how to care, what they ate, because then they did a little drawing and a little video after that, how the process works. So that was really cute. So yeah, so those it's just little things like that, like in little like magical moments that we just like share, and then we will remember forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because it's all about connection. It's about experience. And it's like, taking your kids to see something to be a part of and immerse yourself into something that's real. These are real, real people, real places, real experiences. It's not like a Disney World, pretend
Yes.
kind of thing. You take the same amount of money and and you do something that's real. But what about the people who worry that it feels unsafe, that's
Right.
maybe that's the reason they go to Disney World over the Amazon River cruise, right? Is because they feel like it's predictable, it's safe, and etc.
Well,
So what do you say to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say, first of all, there's nothing wrong with Disney. I've taken my kids to Disney, and it's great. We love roller coasters. They love that, The only problem that I have is like, you don't have to go to Disney World every year, right?
Yeah.
You can take that money and see the world, you can, So that's my only advice. And I talk to people about that all the time, because they have things that they ask, like, "Are you against Disney World?" I'm like, "I'm not," and I'm like, "I don't have." But the other question that I get is like, two things. It's like, one is like, but my kids won't remember, right? That's a big thing. My kids are too young. They're not going to remember. I want them to be a little older. And I say sometimes it's true, but depending on the location, on the destination, then there's definitely like things that I'm saving for when my kids are older. But like the Amazon example, or those little experiences, even like, a tour in Rome of the Colosseum, they might not remember exactly where it was or the details, but they will, they take so much out of it. And I think we just don't realize that, how much they're learning and absorbing, and how that plays into how, the citizens they become later on, even though they might not remember the details per se. So that's the one thing. And the other one is what you said, is it safe, right? And what if I'm risk averse? I don't want to take my chances. I would say, like, first of all, like when I take the kids, everything is inspected, their life vests, and there's like, satellite phones. There's like, you can, they can fly and rescue us if anything happens, right? You have to, that's my job. I take care of that portion of but I still understand. I understand some people are like, it is nature, right? So things might happen, But so for those people, I say there's other things that you can do even closer to home. I like, for instance, in the States, I like dude ranches, for instance. They're great experiences. And have you been to one?
No, but it sounds kind of fun. Like I'm a horse, I've been a horseback rider in my life and my daughter is. So, I mean, we'd probably enjoy it.
Yes, it's super, it's not, and it's, I mean, it's safe, right?
Yeah.
You don't even have to leave the country, right? So, so there are things that you can do everywhere and still expose your kids and take that extra step and get them, a little more involved with the local community. So, I said, I even mentioned, like Italy, friends, you can take certain specific activities that are more culturally immersive. And then even like there's some I've done it in Italy, a trip in Umbria, where we had we stayed with a local family. So you get you learn their way of life, and you also like go truffle hunting, and you have guided tours of Assisi and other historical places.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. That's amazing. Cool. I'm so ready. Like,
You have to come on one of my trips now.
I know we have to. Absolutely. So can we move over to talk about your post about parenting like a traveler? Because that resonated with me so much because it's so true. So walk us through what you mean by parent like a traveler.
So this is actually, as it couldn't be any other way, I guess, right? I actually wrote this on a plane.
Of course.
And it was one of those moments. I was like, that was a couple of years ago, and I was just getting started, and I was like, why is it that I was kind of like working on my why. Why do I do what I do, right? And like, why am I so passionate about these things, right? And I was just like, because to me, they're both so intertwined, the traveling and the parenting, and the mom I want to become, and how I went to travel with my kids. And so that's how the post was born. And basically what that means is like, I feel like the reason why I love traveling so much is just because it's how you feel and how you behave when you are, exploring a different place, right? And I don't know. And I think it does resonate with other people because I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. But at the time I was like, I don't even know if this might sound completely crazy. But so I guess when you travel, you do and I think I talk about, 5 things that are, typical of a traveler. And that my idea is like, I want to parent like that traveler, right? And then the first one was like, you're definitely more open when you're traveling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you experience that. But I feel like we're a lot more tolerant, I guess, when we travel. I think that if we're home, we tend to complain about the little things, everyday life, gets in the way, and you're like, oh no, I can't believe, I missed my train, or I don't know, little things, I feel like we just focus on the little things. And then when you're traveling, and I've had so many more dramatic stories. And I think I even mentioned one in that post, right, about being camping in the water in Tibet and the high altitude. And I remember just being happy, right? And it was super cold. It was freezing. And I'm like, had I been home and forgotten my sweater on a cold day, I would be complaining, right? So I feel like it's just so much more open when you travel. And if you could just bring that to your everyday life, it's just,
I
don't know, it kind of it just lifts off a burden, right?
Yeah. Like letting the little things roll off your chest. Like you're open to, open to new experiences. Exactly. It's not like everything has to be just so. You know that everything is not going to be just so. You know that you can't necessarily control, right? It's that control thing. Like we can't,
Yes.
we know when we're traveling that we can't control everything. So we, we become more tolerant and more open. And that really it makes it everything in life easier, right? Especially being with kids.
And parenting, parenting especially, because you can't control your,
No.
your child's anger, and as they go through a tantrum, and you're like, oh my gosh, like the more you try to control, the worse it is, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
that's
exactly.
a good lesson. I think, like, you feel like, okay, just like be more open and understand that they have feelings too. Of course, we have expectations and we need to get things done, but it's just a matter of like shifting our perspective a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Taking that bigger picture, I think, is kind of what, when you're traveling, you look all around you, you take in the big picture. You want to kind of put together, what is this place? How does it tick and things like that. And less like lost in your own mind chatter, chitty britty, right? And that's, if we can take that attitude to everyday life and parenting, that would be wonderful.
I know.
That's our goal.
That's why, we just need to keep reminding ourselves of that, right?
Yes. Practicing
it's not always easy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Cool. So, and your next thing was to, which is of course resonates so fully with me, is to be present.
Be present, right?
Yes.
Again, so overlooked, but so big, right? So huge. Like, I guess, and that's again, like, and when you travel, I mean, this is like very, very clear when you travel, right? You're really appreciating every single moment, right? You're like looking and taking pictures, and like, you go to the market and how cool these fruits are, so different. And you're like, you're kind of like, you're present, right? And so that was my second thing. I want to be present for my kids. I want to be like the traveler. I want to notice those little moments, with fresh eyes, and try to, I know we have like crazy routines, right? And we are all very busy these days. But I think that if you manage to be present, right? And you just become more patient too, right? You're like, oh, okay, this is even like on the walk to school. And I know obviously we've all heard the quote, right? Stop and smell the flowers. It is a little bit like that. And it's true, because we walk to school every day. And I feel like, I could easily just rush them and say, hey, really, let's go. But if I take, a few extra minutes and just to be able to be present and, have conversations with them along the way, look at different things and meet different people. We always meet other, couples walking their dogs early in the morning. So we stop and talk to them. So, yeah.
And it doesn't take that long. I mean, we're so worried about efficiency in our culture, and like so worried about this thing and that thing and the next thing and the to-do list and things like that. And this idea of just being present. I mean, it goes back to like when I think about traveling, it's that idea, it's the Zen concept of beginner's mind. It's like, just like, look at this, bring this beginner's mind to this moment, because the truth is we've never been in this moment ever before, ever in our lives. Whatever moment it is, it's a brand new moment. It's a brand new thing that you have never, ever experienced ever before. And everything is different. Like your cells in your body are different. Your child is different. Their life is different. They're growing and changing in every moment. And if nothing teaches impermanence like children, my God, they change like every day,
daily, right?
Daily. The shoe size alone, will teach you that.
So true.
But yeah, like that beginner's mind, and traveling does remind you of it. It's like, oh yes, it makes you say, yes, this is I want to bring this into my life. Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, these are things they kind of happen automatically when you're traveling. That's why I find it so intriguing, right? Because we could do all that like relatively effortlessly when you're traveling, but then you just like, when you're back into your daily routine, that's when it becomes more challenging, and you need to remind yourself of that mentality, right?
Yes. Cool. So to keep it,
Yes.
take us to the next,
Yes.
next one.
be bold. Actually, this is one of my favorites because I love, just being, I want my kids to be bold and be brave. And I think also that's very true. And it could be something very like little, right? It could be like some people just eat at the same restaurant, right? Every week, they don't try new things. Against when you're traveling, you're like, okay, you're going to try a new food. You're going to, try to speak a different language or at least learn a few words. You're going to, talk, kind of be more adventurous, right? And this is great. I feel like this is such a great lesson from traveling and something that I definitely want to instill in my kids. I want them to be bold and brave individuals. So, so I think that in the post I mentioned, like, try to bring that into everyday life. So maybe, obviously our kids need a routine, right? Otherwise we would go crazy. But trying something different is also a great experience and very rewarding. I don't know, maybe cook an international dish with your kid. We love doing that. We love cooking international recipes here. And I feel like it's a great, easy way to try something different, right? And it could be like anything that sparks, like curiosity and starts a conversation. Maybe find a new hike to do around in your area, and try something you've never tried before, right? So it could be a new sport, anything, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's okay to not like things, but it's about the process of trying things. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So just last week when I was in Switzerland, I I went on I went up a mountain, so I went in the cable cars, and it's like autumn, so it was at the time, so I went up the cable cars, but on the top of the Swiss Alps, there's snow there,
Yeah. Not prepared.
So I had like a lighter jacket and a vest on, but I didn't have a hat. I didn't have gloves, so I'm up in the snow, and I'm kind of thinking there's this opportunity to do, it was called Ice Flyer. Basically, it was like an open air cable car thing where you go over the glacier and you go, over the glacier and back. And, this it's your feet are kind of dangling, right? And I was like, I don't know. It's a little cold. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. How long is this? I'm going to be out in the cold for how long? And I was just like, it was that whole traveling thing of like, be brave, just do the thing. And so myself, I was traveling alone. And so myself and this other woman, she's from Estonia. She was traveling alone. And this Indian guy, the three of us get on the
freezing,
get on the ice.
Let's freeze together.
It was so great. The Indian guy was like, snow, this is great. And it was amazing, like it's just breathtaking, like so like thrilling and exciting, and it was just amazing. So it was kind of one of those.
It's rewarding, right? You
totally.
feel great about that. Yeah,
totally rewarding.
And this is like when things don't go as planned. If you're bold and if things don't go as planned, then you can refer to number one and be open.
Yes, refer back to number one.
And then we'll be okay. We'll be okay, right?
I know. Sometimes I think I'm bolder than I am. There's this thing called Go Ape around us, and I think they have them around different places, but it's this whole like tree zip line. It's like this tree course,
like a
right? Like
course, yeah,
way up high in the trees, and you have to like clip yourself in with a harness and stuff. And
love those.
My daughter wanted to do it because she was 10 years old. She could do the big one, right? Like she was old enough. So, but she had to have an adult with her. So I was like, okay,
Sure.
Here I go. Sure, no problem. And I thought, people do this. It's fine, no problem. But then, it's really pretty scary. Like, it was really like, there were moments where I was like, ah! I'm like screaming bloody murder as I like fly through the air,
And your daughter is keeping you calm.
She's like,
okay,
Mom, it's okay, but I was like, it was a good reminder. Like, parenting was a reminder to do that brave, bold thing.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
let me do that. Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, I think the be brave, bold is really a message we need more as parents, maybe more than kids, right? The kids are like, yes, I will go do brave, bold things.
Yes. We just don't have to, just don't get in their way, at least, right?
Yeah, yeah. Can we support them in doing brave, bold things without our own fear holding them back, right?
Exactly, exactly. Which
Yeah.
is a big challenge for parents, I think.
It is. It is. Yeah, especially in this sort of it's been I think we're kind of coming off a generation that was in very, 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 very safety oriented, and which is okay. It's good to be safe, but
Yeah,
kids know that they can do things. They can do sometimes more than we think we can. I've done a lot of
yes,
spotting my daughter,
yeah,
spotting her and just being there in case something happens, like as she climbs
right?
various
Yeah.
things.
I know, but you kind of have to like, control yourself, right? And I get that a lot too. Like especially with my oldest, she's super brave and she wants to climb at anything and everything. She wanted to do paragliding in Switzerland. I I had to say no just because the person told me she was 7 at the time.
Oh my gosh.
She's like she was basically the weight limit, like, and it's like, well, then the person told me, and I was gonna do it with her, but then the person told me, well, maybe you do it in the afternoon because it's less windy. And I'm like, you're telling me if there's she's so close that if it gets windy, then it becomes a problem. Then I think we're gonna wait for a couple more years, right? So we
Yeah.
didn't do it, and she was very disappointed. But she would totally do it. She's like not afraid. I
Ready ready to go. Well,
It's my daughter, I guess. Yeah.
you've instilled that boldness in
Yeah.
her. I
Yeah.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. So, and
Um,
then your fourth one is really, I think, also very specific to the work that you do in the culturally immersive
yeah.
element. So tell us about that.
So the fourth one would be kind. And I think that here, but it refers to both being kind to others, but also, and something that is often overlooked, is being kind to yourself,
Oh,
right?
amen.
Yes, basically. And that's kind of what I meant, that I think that we could use that a lot in everyday parenting, like, to use a traveling example, things go wrong when you travel, maybe, like, I don't know, miss a train, you miss a plane, you lose your passport, it's like, things could go wrong, right? But you kind of like have to like move on, and you don't dwell on the fact that, oh my gosh, this happened, right? You're just going to go on and enjoy your vacation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a little bit what we should do as parents, because I think we tend to, when things go wrong, like, in everyday life, we tend to like, oh my gosh, this is like not working. And sometimes it's hard for us to like let go and
Mm-hmm.
reset and
Mm-hmm.
find that kindness towards ourselves. And I think that's what I mentioned in the post, kind of like find whatever works for you, like whether it's breathing, meditation, I don't know, a walk outside, something that will remind you to be kind to yourself. And then I think once you get that, then you can be kind to others, right? And this is also very specific, like you mentioned, to what I do. When you're traveling, you meet people, and you learn about different cultures, and you just all of a sudden you appreciate all those differences, and you find what's common also among us. So that's kind of like where kindness comes into play, right?
Yeah. 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 So I love that on so many levels, like just that perspective on yourself and that not dwelling on our mistakes and problems, and it's easier to do when you travel. I think you're just more you I don't know, you're just not as focused on those things,
Yeah, I
and
think
that
because
is
they're being more stimulated by new things. So whatever is
mm,
new, so you're like, okay, this is, and there you have a limited time, right, to enjoy as well. So you're like, I cannot just dwell on what's going wrong. I need to enjoy my vacation, especially like if you're paying a good chunk of money for it. You're like, I'm gonna enjoy this, right?
yeah, yeah,
Your free
exactly.
time, it's your time to enjoy and time to relax, and you're paying money. So yeah, I think like that, unfortunately, like that's what it takes, right, for us to let go of the little petty things But
Yeah, well, it's funny because this is really almost nothing different between traveling and being home in that our time is limited, no matter
right,
what. We're here on this earth for a real short amount of time,
right.
and um, it's too harmful in so many ways to be to be unkind to ourselves, and to others. So,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
so true.
that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
but I mean, even, yeah, it's true. I mean, our time is limited, right? Period. But I don't think we're not always aware of that, right? Or we don't take that into consideration as we should, as often as we should.
Yeah, yeah. In my artwork on the art side of things, I've always been really fascinated with the memento mori, is what we call is called in the art world, is and it's you may see it in like Renaissance paintings. You probably have, Patty, since you've traveled around the world. But there people. Artists will put reminders of death in the paintings, and it's there on purpose, like a skull might be sitting on the table on purpose or whatever, because just to remind us that death is always present. And
Right?
and the beauty of just remembering that death is always present is that we live life. It's the best
Yes, you appreciate
lesson
now.
to
Yeah.
live life. So I have this kind of an odd fact about myself is that I have this sort of skull collection.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that. I
I
have
did not.
I have like some deer skulls, and I have
Do I need to know where you collected
it's
those?
totally weird. No, I have them in my art studio for drawing, mostly, but
Oh,
I have a cow skull that someone gave me. And stuff.
now I know what to bring you as a souvenir next time I travel.
Excuse me, customs. You don't mind if I like
Like I have a
I
skull.
have a skull. Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
Who knew this would travel down that path?
Right?
That's so funny. Okay.
Oh
And well,
wow. Yeah, but
memento
it is a good
mori.
reminder. Yeah, right?
It brings us really beautiful segue to your final
The
one,
last
right? Yeah.
one, yes, the final one is be grateful. And this is huge, obviously, right? In parenting. And, I think, and I think this is like, again, it's one of those things that come easily when you're traveling, right? You notice the wonders, you're like super excited, you're so grateful for that experience, you're talking to people about it, and like you just feel happy. And it's just such a good example of what it could be in everyday life, right? Like if you're more grateful and if you get to practice gratefulness with gratitude with your children, they will automatically start looking beyond their own world and their own environment, and appreciate the little things, the little moments, right? The things that, and kids it's funny with kids, right? Because they're like, I still do. And I think I mentioned in the post that I had a journal with my kids. So every day, every night. And I love that. I love because that's the moment that I get to talk to them. They're in bed and we have the best conversations at the time. I don't know if you have a similar experience with your kids, but that's kind of when they open up, right? And, like, and then I ask them about their day, and I ask them to tell me about 3 things they're grateful for.
I do the same thing. This is great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do. Yeah.
I think it is so great, and it's so easy, right? And so powerful. I think that's the message here, because I mean, I guess, yeah, more and more people are talking about it, right? And gratitude journals and all that. And I think there's a reason for that. And I think that's something I definitely encourage my daughters to keep doing throughout their life. But from my perspective as a parent, I feel that's a great moment of connection, like right before they get to bed, we talk about what they're grateful for. And then we have all these amazing conversations about like their perspectives in life, because it always evolves into like, something happened at school, and sometimes it's something they're struggling with. And I just love this for so many different reasons, right? But yeah, so gratitude, right? Like something that we should all practice, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I love it. I love it. So, Patty, I love I love what you bring to this work and to your work and just the perspective that you have. So everyone should go on a trip with Patty. I need to go on a trip. Tell us where we can tell the listener where they can find out more about you and about the different trips you go on and things like that.
Absolutely. So the company's name is Our Whole Village, and the website is ourwholevillage.com. Anybody can email me anytime at patricia@ourwholevillage.com. And I'm working on the 2018 departures right now. I will send you a link whenever I have, a link to all the departures. But we're looking at, I do many different places, but we're looking at special departures for Brazil, Peru, Ecuador, and Japan next year.
Ooh.
So, yes. Ooh. Pick one.
Yes.
And Costa Rica too.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I have to start talking to my husband about 2018 right now.
That's the thing. Yeah, we need to plan ahead because the vacation time and everything. Yes.
It's a long game. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Mindful Mama podcast. I really appreciate having you on, having your perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Mindful Mama podcast. I loved talking to Patty. I love how she points out how much more relaxed and open we are when we are traveling. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could just take that into our everyday lives, right? I strive to do that when I go pick up my girls from the bus stop every day. And I'm not always successful, that's for sure. If you have a question, you can always email me at hunter@hunterclarkefields.com. That's hunter@hunterclarkefields, Clark with an E, fields with an S.com. Or you can go, and if you want to talk about this episode, go ahead and go over to mindfulmamapodcast.com, and you can find it there. I hope you will subscribe to the episode, to the Mindful Mama podcast. I'll hope you leave a rating and tell your friends about it. It's super easy, of course, to leave that rating and review on the iTunes. If you're listening on your phone, you can just search for it and do it right there on your phone, really easy. And make sure you check out my free audio guide. I have a free guide called it's at mindfulmomguide.com, and it's a guide for you to help you bring mindfulness into your everyday life. And as we know, this can change everything. It's kind of like this brain hack superpower that we really, really need as mamas. We need those tools to help us become less reactive. It really does change everything. So you can find that free audio guide at mindfulmomguide.com. And finally, thank you, dear hubby Bill, for the music. And thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. Namaste. Are you a mom who wants to feel less stressed and enjoy motherhood more? Do you want to be calmer with your kids and be more present for all of your life? I'm a mom who has gone from really being stressed and yelling when my kids were young to having a more grounded, more at ease relationship with life and having more enjoyable cooperative relationships with my kids. And I've shown hundreds and thousands of women around the world how to do this. And I want to show you how to do it too. So if you are currently feeling stuck or stagnant, this is definitely for you. I've created a free downloadable Audible training, Mindfulness for Moms, the Superpower You Need. And it will show you how to respond rather than react, how to let go of stress and feel more grounded in seconds, how to have a smoother day today and become more present for your kids for a lifetime. To get on this audio training absolutely free, simply visit the website www.mindfulmomguide.com.